What is Israel supposed to do when civilians flee south and Hamas follows them?
This is a quandary that we've had from the very beginning. Not only we in the United States as the primary backers of Israel, both militarily with our fleet and with equipment, but also for the Israelis themselves. They are not insensitive to this. Their problem is they see their number one goal as an existential goal, a right-now goal of destroying Hamas as a military offensive force and as the governance of Gaza. They've succeeded pretty much in the north, which is why they say they're rounding that operation up. Now they're trying in the south. That will be tougher because the bulk of the population is now there, and it's a small area. They've begun their operations on the ground. They've promised to be much more careful. They've gotten a lot of warnings, as we just heard from Jake Sullivan and General, now Secretary Austin. Yes. We'll have to see how it rolls out, but this is not easy. To protect civilians, they have to pay in time or Israeli casualties, both of which are precious to them.
Well, on Friday, we spoke to Admiral Kirby, and Joe and I asked, where do you expect these civilians to go? He said, one, we told the Israelis that they do not support southern operations unless they factored in the civilians, and two, urged them to think about how do you keep civilians safe. That's not really an answer. Where do they actually expect these people to go? They told them to move. Hundreds of thousands, move from the north to the south.
That's true. They're now going to try to, and they have these funny little maps that they're deploying from little areas. I don't think that will work particularly well in the middle of a war zone. Telling them to go from north to south actually did work because despite...
And they set up corridors.
Yeah, and they set up corridors. And they're going to have to do something like that, or they're going to be facing an awful lot of civilians, and that means civilian casualties. So we'll have to see how they play this.
What are the chances of engaging in another truce in the effort to free more hostages? Or are we going to see the IDF start using special forces to go in and get them out on their own?
That's possible because they've eliminated, particularly in the north, the places where these people could be. And look, even for Hamas, there's only so many kilometers of tunnels you can have. But in terms of a ceasefire, I think that if Hamas put a good offer on the table, from what we've seen of the internal politics of Israel, there's no way that the Israelis would say no, and they would play it out for as long as it takes. Remember, every exchange reduces the number of hostages that Hamas has and makes it easier for Israel to find the remaining ones.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is out with a headline this afternoon. Israel weighs a plan to flood Gaza tunnels with seawater. What does this mean potentially for those hostages? Is there potentially any intelligence that those hostages are maybe in homes and not actually in the tunnels or somewhere else?
From everything I know, and I'm not privy to the intelligence, but from everything that those hostages released have said, many of them are in tunnels. Now, the flooding with seawater idea isn't new. The Egyptians did it to shut down about 20 or 30 tunnels that Hamas had dug from Gaza some years ago. So it's normally a feasible plan of action. But you have to factor in the hostages, and it's hard for me to imagine Israel is going to do this without having an answer to the hostages.
You're a former diplomat. What do you make of the CIA director playing such a central role in the truce and the hostages that were released, realizing he, too, was a former diplomat? But to have somebody with that title in Qatar helping to orchestrate all of this means what for our foreign diplomacy?
It means that we're lucky we have a president like Joe Biden who understands how diplomacy works. And you go with the person who can get the job done, not the person with the title. But more importantly, his counterpart is the Mossad director, the Israeli intelligence chief. It would be odd for Tony Blinken or Jake Sullivan to talk to that guy. But again, despite the intelligence connection, on almost any Middle East issue or Russian issue, as we've seen, Bill Burns is the guy to use.
Right. He's been flying around the world. We also heard from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan today about what the U.S. is doing in terms of deterrence in the region. Take a listen.
We have taken a number of steps, including the movement of carriers, air wings, and others, to keep this war that is being waged now between Israel and Hamas in Gaza from spilling out into a broader conflict. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not seeing very alarming behavior.
I mean, there was some alarming behavior this weekend with a U.S. aircraft carrier, as well as the Houthis firing drones or ballistic missiles against cargo ships. Does that worry you about potentially this conflict spreading?
No. If I were Jake Sullivan, I would call it terribly alarming behavior as well, because I wouldn't say the truth is, boy, are we happy they're not doing anything that is having any impact on everything. This is so far all for show. Even the seemingly high casualty exchanges between Israel and Hezbollah along the Lebanese border, which have cost some 100 people. The big picture here beyond Gaza is Joe Biden has miraculously called forth a whole pivot of the U.S. Navy back in the Air Force and Army back into the region, and he has contained and deterred Iran and all of their pals that have been running amok through the region for the last 20 years. They're doing a few strikes here and there, but they're being very careful because they know we have escalation dominance.
So when you hear about a sustained drone attack, I guess this went on for 6 or 7 hours in the Red Sea yesterday, is that something the U.S. Navy can simply swat away? How serious of a threat is that?
I think the score at the end was U.S. Navy 20, Houthis, Hezbollah, the rest 0. I think we can keep doing it. The important thing, though, is Joe Biden has given those ships the order not just to defend themselves, but let's be honest, to defend Israel. This is the second Iron Dome he's put there.